time to love your business with Love Your Business TV. Here's your host, Adrian Peck.
Excellent. Well, I've got the absolute pleasure today of introducing a fine gentleman with whom I've already spoken, whose name I will tell you at the end. He's done 4 TEDx events. He's developed insights and strategies and training used by well over 250,000 companies. He's the chairman of a charity called B1G1 and an all-round very good person. So today, talking about how businesses can be measurably more successful by weaving this method into their business philosophy, I give you Paul Dunn. Thank you, Paul.
Hey, Richard, thank you, and thank you, everybody. I hope you can see me up there. I'm right here in that place, which, by the way, let me just show you. That is Singapore, and isn't it amazing? There you go. Let's have a quick look around Singapore. So, Richard, can you just give me a thumbs up and see that everything is moving, and you can hear my my dulcet tones, as it were, everything coming through?
I can indeed. I can hear your lovely tones well.
That's fantastic. So why don't we just say again?
Is that live?
No, that is not live, although it is 6 o'clock. Actually, it's about 6:35 in the evening right here. So, well, could be live. It looks like that, although Singapore changes every week. For those of you who've been here, actually, just jump up on the chat if you would. Let me know if you've been here and what you thought of it and when it was. Go ahead, put the year down and all of that kind of stuff. Let me know when you've been to this amazing place. It really, really is a stunning, stunning place. And whilst you're doing that, and by the way, Richard, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. And of course, thank you to everybody who's sharing their Monday morning with me. I feel very humbled and very privileged to be with you. Of course, at my age, I feel privileged, Richard, to be anywhere, but particularly with you this morning. So it's awesome to see you. Seriously, seriously awesome to see you all. So one of the things we're going to need on our time together today is a pad. Make sure you've got a pad and make sure you've got a pencil. And what we're going to do is, because I'm in a different part of the world than you are, then maybe today we can give you a slightly different perspective in the next 10 minutes or so. So let's start with that perspective question. Here comes the question. And perspective, by the way, is defined as looking at things from a place where you're not, which is kind of impossible for you to be, right, at a place where you're not. So let's just check. In your part of the world, what do these two things mean? Just put it up on the chat. Let me see how good you are with that. I can put it up on the chat as well. Let me just see. There we go. I'm going to get my chat on there. There we go. So let's see what everybody says. Singapore a few times. Oh, the rate profit and loss, says Yamela. Very good. And oh, look, you guys are all good. Oh, very good. The accountants would be very, very. Pins and limes, says Kieran. Well done, Kieran. I haven't heard that one before. But that's interesting. What a great group, huh? And it's only 11 o'clock on a Monday morning. Interesting. So in any event, what if, just for the purposes of our time together, and by the way, if you haven't been on the chat yet, do get up on the chat, because that's a great way that we can check that you're actually here, right? That you're still okay. We don't have to send the ambulance around or something like that. So with that additional perspective that I was talking about before, what if, just for the moment, what if P&L meant something quite different? What if it actually meant these two things, purpose and legacy? And what if, when we think of purpose and legacy, and this is, by the way, what Networking for Good is all about, then what if the truth of the matter is, and by the way, this is the truth of the matter, that purpose and legacy, when you build them together, actually lead to far greater profit and far greater impact as well. And there's so much data on that right now that it is no longer arguable. Purpose and legacy leads to far greater profit and impact. So with that in mind, you may remember I said that you should get out a pad. So if you can, just wave your pad at me. Go ahead, make sure you've got the pad. It could be an iPad, by the way, but ideally just a notepad or a little piece of paper, whatever it is. There you go. That's a big piece, Richard. And what I want you to do is turn it, do they call that landscape way? I think they do, landscape way. Just turn it sideways, because what we're going to do is learn some stuff. Thank you, Ella. Learn some stuff by drawing. People say that when you start drawing, you draw people in. Now, don't draw this one. This is just an example, okay? We're going to draw some very, very simple shapes. And as a result, we're going to try and make some sense of this time that we are in right now. So, pads at the ready, pens on the left-hand side. Here's what I want you to do. Just draw a little box right there. You don't need to fill it in like I've done, but just put the word today on it, okay? And just write the word, if you would. I hope you're writing, Richard, because we can see you, right? So, or at least I can. So put the word uncertainty across the top of it. Now, today there is still, and if we go back maybe 4 or 5 weeks, there was a lot of uncertainty. Maybe that's getting a little bit less, but there is one thing that we can be certain of. So to get that, what I want you to do is just draw a straight line all the way out to the right-hand side of your paper. And we can be certain, because this is the history of the human race, that there is going to be some future date. We can be certain of that, right? It could be 3 months from now, could be 3 years from now, doesn't matter. It could be tomorrow, but we can be certain that there is a future date. We really can. Now, part of the issue in these last few months, and by the way, a great big shout out to all the heroes, those frontline people that have just done, and by frontline people here in Singapore, by the way, I'm talking about not just the hospital people, but the taxi drivers and the delivery guys who just deliver stuff to us during lockdown. We still are in lockdown here. But in any event, here was this thing called the pandemic. And the problem with the pandemic is we didn't know, maybe we still don't know, when we are out of it. But one of the things that we have seen, and you probably have seen exactly the same thing, and what I want to do in this 10 minutes is just give you 3 types of leaders that we have seen. And I suspect you're one of these types. I'm going to tell you which one I suspect you are in just a second. So draw this line. Doesn't matter that you may not have a red pen, but draw the line going down like that. And you've probably seen this. You may have even experienced it. This is what we call panic leadership. And what happens here, there's one of 2 things that happen. People either run around like a chicken with its head cut off, or alternatively, they simply freeze. It's still because like, oh my God, I don't know what it is that I need to do. And again, you've probably seen a fair bit of this. Right in the middle, though, is another one, and it begins with P as well. It's just like a sine wave. And I call this one passive leadership. And that's where, which means basically there is no leadership. Basically what it means is we're just kind of, you know, bobbing along, okay, like a cork in the sea, as it were. And one of the things that's really interesting about this passive thing, you'll notice that right back here today, and then you go along to whenever that future date is, you're exactly at the same place. Nothing has changed, nor will it with passive leadership. So then the question that Adrian asked me to address is this particular style of leadership right here. So draw that one in, and if you've got a blue line, that's really good. I call this one purpose-driven leadership, purpose-driven. Now, one of the things that's really interesting, I'm just going to look at a few characteristics of these purpose-driven leaders. This is a bit hard to draw, but just imagine a line going up here. And what happens is leaders are consistently at their best. Like, it doesn't matter what you throw at them, they are consistently at their best. And one of the things, by the way, leaders who are consistently at their best do is they consistently meet in groups like this, right? That's one of the things they do. But one of the things that I was looking at is what else is it that really determines and really shows how we can be consistently at our best. And the thing that I came up with is this one. You might want to write it in. We're all at our best when we're giving. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean when we're giving money. It doesn't mean that. It means when we are giving of ourselves, when we're helping someone across the road, where we're picking up something that someone else dropped. We're all at our best when we're giving, or when we're saying thank you to the taxi driver for stopping. We are all at our best when we're giving. And because it's almost like an incontestable truth, that one. Now, because leaders who are purpose-driven know that, then have a guess what they do. What they do is they embed giving into everything they do, everything they do. And as a result of that, another way of thinking about that is what happens is they shift the spirit of their enterprises just from who they are being. And so one of the things that happens, and Richard, let me just direct this to you. You've probably heard the word over these past few months, pivot. Everyone's saying, we've got to pivot, we've got to pivot. Well, what if you didn't use this time to pivot, but what if you used it to transform? And that is exactly what purpose-driven leaders do. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about this is you have a look at the difference between the blue and the red line here. Right? It's pretty small, okay? But have a look at the difference right here, okay? Very, very large, which means, of course, that this is the time to act. In fact, one of the ways that we talk about this is this. Now, let me show you this. I'm just going to bracket some things together here. And by the way, let me introduce another concept as well. So here we call, let me just move the chat so I can just see what's going on over here. Here we go. So one of the things that Adrian knows that I talk about a lot is this particular time as we come through it. It really is our time to rise. It's not a time to get back on track. Now that might sound really weird. It's time to get on a different track, a different sustainable track. And we're going to talk more about that and introduce Boris to you later on as well. So, and you'll also see that these guys who are purpose-driven, I say guys, meaning guys and girls, of course, they have this North Star. They have something that is bigger than themselves. So let's take a look at what that is right up here. A North Star, it's bigger than themselves. It's very clear this is where they're going, okay? This gets back to that purpose and legacy we were talking about a little while ago. Now, my friend, some of you would know him. His name is Simon Sinek, and probably jump on the chat and let me know if you know of Simon and his great book, Start With Why, and all those sort of things. You like put yes if you know who I'm talking about. And Simon refers to the North Star as a why. Okay, that's how he refers to it. And one of the things he said to me, and I don't have this on the slide, Adrian, but one of the things he said to me in a private conversation not that long ago, he said this. So please write this down. It's central. It is seriously central. He said this, he didn't write it. He said, all purpose, or really, actually, I'll say that again. He said this, true purpose is always human. Please write that in. True purpose is always human. So if you think about that for a minute, that means that true purpose is not, we aim to be the best this. That's not what true purpose is. True purpose is always human. Let me give you an example of this with someone I work with, I've been working with this one is in Australia. This guy is in the IT space. He does a lot of security systems. His name is Marty Hark, and the name of his company is infiniteedge.com.au. You can go and look it up if you like. But let's have a look at his why. He says this, we make and by the way, have a guess where this why is. This why is right on his front page, and that's precisely where your why should be, particularly now. Particularly now. It should not be about what you do. It should be about why you do what you do. So have a look at this one. We make complex technology, he says, beautifully simple for you so that you can concentrate on what you do best, being human. We give you and your teams the freedom to connect in new ways, and that word connection is so crucial, by the way, to connect in new ways to bring that sense of humanity to your workplace, to your families, to your communities, and of course, to our world. And have a guess what's happened in the last 4 weeks since he did that. His team has come together in ways that he could not have imagined. And customers are absolutely flocking to him, not as a result of what he does, but as a result of why he does what he does. And so maybe, Adrian, at one time, perhaps later in Networking for Good, we can talk about how you do all of that. Now, by the way, just before we finish, and I hope this is kind of on track for you, just before we finish, there is a big North Star that we all can have. It's those things right there. These are called the Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the Global Goals. Now, what I want you to do, this is going to be really, really interesting. Just drop up on the chat, if you would, and tell me, not if you know every goal or everything like that, but if you're aware of these things called the Global Goals. Just go. No, I don't. Thank you, Karen. You're into 8 and 16, but just we signed to goal 8. Okay, let me know that whether or not, like yes or no, that you are familiar with these things. Most of us will be, I think. You would be amazed, though. Thank you for the no's. Oh, there we go. Okay, we support them globally. Very, very good. Sue, good. I'm going to give you some places to go. Interestingly enough, if we would have asked that question a year ago in the United Kingdom, which we did, we would have got about 4% of people saying yes. And if we ask that question today in the US, it's still about 4%. But in some countries, like for example in Australia, now unless you're doing something around the global goals, you cannot tender for government jobs. So this stuff, these are 17 things that we have to achieve by 2030. We have to. I'm going to give you a way of finding out more of these goals in a second. But the way that these goals were introduced in 2015, the world body said, they said, governments do not change our world. I want you to hear that. Governments do not change our world. Now, they said governments can enable it, but it is businesses, it is entrepreneurs, you and I, that actually change our world. That's why it is so important that we adopt these things. One of the ways that we call them is this. Let me just show you what I call them or what we call them. It is all a matter of making your business a force for good. That's what it's all about. And by the way, just very quickly, Adrian, late breaking news on this. Some of you may have seen it. And oh, by the way, I know one of my colleagues, Steve Pipe, was here with you just a little while ago. There's a little book that you can get pre-production. It's a really, really great book. It goes into all of this stuff in great detail, ourtimeto.rise.global, and you can just go there now and just click on it and make sure that you get it, or at least make a note to go there, but just stay here for 1 second, if you will, actually about 60 seconds, because I want to talk with you about what happened last week. In fact, last Wednesday. Oh, by the way, have a look at how this works, because in B1G1, have a look at this. We track all of your giving and we display it beautifully. Look at this. This is what happens when you make your business a force for good. Imagine this as your website. So here now on the left-hand side, you see how we're tracking the giving impacts. Now we track where those impacts are going locally. But notice how on the map, notice how we report that. It's not about the money. It's about the impact that you are creating. And once you get onto the global goals, you will see exactly, look at this. This could be your website. Look at this. Actually counting up your impact on the global goals. Imagine the impact that that has on your customers, on your prospects, and importantly, on your team. And as Adrian will tell you, you can do that very, very simply on b1g1.com. But what I want to talk about is what happened in the UK. We all know who this guy is, right? That's his official portrait, by the way. His hair is done much better than it normally is, obviously, in the official portrait. And last week, in fact, on the 9th, he got a letter. And it's a very important letter that he got. And let me just show you. And I'm not going to read the whole thing here. In fact, we're probably not going to read it at all. But you can go get it. Just go letter to Boris on SDGs, and you'll be able to get exactly that letter. But what's interesting is that I want to introduce you to another person as well. Notice what they're saying here. The global goals must be the way that we connect to get through this in a way that we've never seen before. We must do this. It's not an option, it's like a must. So here's another guy. This guy, Michael Isa, he's the CEO of the ICAEW. If you don't know what that is, it's probably the world's actually most senior accounting body. It stands for the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. And they are the guys who sent that, your accountants, right? Sent that to Boris. Here's the letter. Again, no need to read the whole letter, but you can see over here 150 businesses, the letter calls on, all of these people. And by the way, the people who signed this thing, this is for the very fast readers, Richard. There's like a host of people that you go, oh, he signed this. Oh, she signed this. Yes. And what's so interesting, the guys from Unilever who are right at the center of this as well. But what's so interesting is what Michael has said about this. Take a look at this. This is an accountant, right? The Sustainable Development Goals are an important framework to ensure governments and businesses. Let me read that again. The SDGs are an important framework to ensure your business is pursuing the long-term public interest. So he says, we hope the Prime Minister will use them as a foundation for the post-COVID recovery. And then look at this. As chartered accountants, we think it's vital businesses look beyond profit and they have a wider social purpose. And we're pleased that so many organizations join our call to government to put these goals front and center. And that's one of the reasons why, Adrian, as you know, and all the people who are on your team, I'm so thrilled with all you're doing here, because this kind of philosophy is absolutely central. That's why it's called networking for good. Adrian, there's much more that I can talk about, but hopefully that's my 10 minutes. But there we go. Was that okay?
Fabulous. I mean, what's a thumbs up or some feedback on the chat would be great to see how you thought. There's lots of thumbs up there. So I think it's...
Oh, wow. Look at that. Really cool.
So if
Thank you, everybody. You're very generous.
If we got enough feedback and support, would you come back and talk to us more, Paul?
Oh, twist my arm. Of course I would.
Fabulous.
This is important work, Andy, and what you're doing is critically important. It's critically important. It's critically important for you, for your families, for your communities, and for our world. Critically important. And by the way, 2030 is only 10 years away. We really have to. Thank you, Neelam. And I was interested to hear your stuff that you were talking about when we joined here. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ariana. Thank you, Savani. Very good.
Fantastic.
Love Your Business TV. Thank you. Join us next week and don't forget to subscribe.